Hey, what's going on, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be going over candles. So candles are very important, especially when it comes to trading. I know a lot of you guys might not pay attention to candles, and you guys just pay attention to the overall structure of like the candles, but you guys don't pay attention to each individual candle. Well, in this video, after this video, you guys are gonna realize that candle plays a huge role, and they always tell a story. So let's get into it. So momentum. So momentum is when what happens to pricing momentum? So what happens to pricing momentum is price would, let's say, it'll create a high and it'll create a low. So let me take this out for you guys. Let me show you guys. So we have, so price is, let's say price makes a high. Okay, let's say it's reaching a resistance. Price has enough momentum, it will make another high, retest that. The resistance is now it's making another high. So after a retest, it's gonna continue the momentum and so on, right? Just keep retesting, continue, right? So that's what happens when price makes a high. So what happens when price makes a low? So when price makes a low, this is what happens. Price is coming down. It has enough momentum to break this low, this support, sorry. It retests that support and continuation of down, right? So this is a high and this is a low. So now you're probably wondering, how does that connect to candles? So let me show you. So in the candle, this is what you have. You have a body. This is your body. That's your wick, lower wick, and that's your higher wick. So what does this candle tell you alone? This candle tells you a lot. So let's say you have, this would be the low of that candle, right? That's the low, and this is the high of that candle. Think of it as lower low and higher highs. So what happens in the next candle? When the next candle forms, what happens? So when the next candle forms, you're gonna see if price. So let's say this is a bullish candle. The next candle forms like right here at the right wherever the body is. So let's say it forms right there. A bullish candle forms, it prints off a bullish candle. So before that candle becomes bullish, it will always make, more times it will make a wick. 80% of the times it will make a wick to the bottom, at least. If it's not long, it might be short, but there will always be a wick to the bottom. So say you have this wick, and now this candle creates a higher wick. So on this first wick, this bottom wick, this is now your low, right? So this is your first low. Now this is your second low, right? So so this is your low, this is your higher high, this is your low. Now this is your higher high, because price is respecting. So if you draw it out like with arrows, that'll be your higher high, higher low, higher high, right? So now this comes your support. This candle on a smaller time frame comes your support. So let me show you guys. On a smaller time frame, this is what it's gonna look like. So let's say this is your 30-minute time frame. On a smaller time frame, it's gonna look like this. Price is making higher highs, right? And then all of a sudden you have bearish candle forming. So for instance, this is your let's say this is your 1 hour candle. That's your 1 hour candles, right? That'll be your 1 hour candles. And let's say this is your 15-minute candle. All right, everyone got that? So now what you have is, so these are two 1 hour candles and these are 15-minute candles. So let's say you have the low, right? This is your low between these two candles. And now you have the high of this candle. This is the high of this candle, right? So this is just one big candle. Actually, no, these will now be 30-minute candles, not 15-minute candles, because you know that there's two 30-minute candles in a hour candle, right? And a 15-minute candle is 4, so there's only 2 here. So let's just say this is a 30-minute. All right. So yeah, that's your top of this hourly candle. And now we have, before we have this 30-minute candle, this new hourly candle that forms, price comes down to make that little retest. So that little retest is now this, right? So yeah, it's now this and these candles right there. Now that's your 30-minute retest. So when price makes that retest, you now have this support right there that was forming that retest is now this support right there, formed right there, right? Sorry, right there, right? And then obviously next candle makes another high, comes up. So that's the low of this candle, and this is the high. So this is the low of that candle, and now this is the high of this candle. That's the high. All right. So it's pretty simple, but a lot of people don't realize this, that candles make a huge, like they play a huge role, and you don't actually have to wait for the whole structure to retest. You can just wait for that little candle to make that retest. So I'm gonna show you guys more examples of it in the charts, but this is what, it's like the overall, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about momentum, right? Sometimes there's too much momentum and price doesn't actually retest because there's too much momentum going on, and price doesn't have time to come back to pick up whatever and continue to go up. It just goes straight up. All right, so what happens when there's no retest? So there's obviously more than one way to enter, right? There's more than one way to enter. Don't rely on one type of entry. Don't just rely on that one break and retest, right? Look more into detail. Look at those candles. I'm gonna show you guys. It's very important. I'm gonna show you guys in the next video probably how important it is to read candles in the charts. Well, I'm not going to show you guys, I'm going to prove to you guys, all right? So market isn't always going to do the same thing every time. Yes, the market isn't, if the market just does a break and retest every single time, it's going to be way too easy. So sometimes price, what it does is it doesn't actually come back for the retest, it just continue going up because they know that everyone has buying orders. So instead of just coming back for the retest that everyone's waiting for, price will just continue to go up, 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 up without making that retest, all right? So how do you enter without a retest? So I think I showed you guys this in the first slide already, but it's pretty much the same thing. Let me just do one more time for you guys. So how do you enter without a retest? How do you enter and where do you put your stop loss? All right, so let's draw it out. So let's say we have a little bullish trend, and we've been waiting for this price. This whole time we've been waiting for price to break below structure right here. So say we make this orange. So let's say we have resistance right there. This is resistance, right? So this is resistance. And then the next candle forms, and all of a sudden we come up like this. Perceived price comes like this, but before it does that, it makes a wick. So this is the next candle. All right, so you guys now know that this structure resistance is not broken because this is the candle closure. So this is the low of the first candle, right? Price comes up, makes that high. It doesn't break resistance, but it touches that resistance, showing signs of this is being a strong resistance. anticipating that these previous candles are retesting it too. I'm not gonna draw them up, but let's just imagine that these previous candles are just making these same candles right here, just retesting that, just making those wicks to the top. So after it makes that top wick, the next candle forms, comes up, makes a bottom wick like this, right? So now it's making a higher low. All right, so meaning that if this body, this candle, instead of this candle just going bullish, it breaks this low of this candle. It breaks this candle low and it forms a body coming down instead. This will just show you that price is now breaking structure. Is breaking structure, so showing that it will continue to come down. So this case we have price breaking above this resistance. So with the next candle being formed, the next candle might not always. So this is what I mean. What happens? How do you enter with a retest? So this is the next candle forms, and it doesn't retest this resistance, right? It just forms. Right? So let's say that's the next candle. See how price never retested this resistance right here? It never retested. There's a little gap right there. There's a gap between here and here. Yeah, see that? So what happens is what happens in this case is this is your previous candle high and this is your previous candle low, right? So as long as price does not break the previous candle low, whatever here will be your higher low now, right? So this is your high and this is your higher low. This is the low of that candle. So now that this wick is formed, and this candle turned bullish, because obviously this wick formed before this bullish candle obviously came down to retest and then continue to go up. So now, since this candle turned bullish, what I'll do in this exact scenario is I will have a buy stop right here. So we know that the previous candle high is the high of price, right? So once price makes that little wick to the bottom, making a higher low, I know that price will eventually come up and break the previous candle high. So when price breaks that previous candle high, my buy stops will be activated. So now what will happen is I'll be in this trade from here, the buy stop, and my stop loss would be right here. So stop loss would be right there. The reason why I put it here is because price is now, this is the low of this candle. So if price turns bullish, showing signs of bullish momentum, if price turns bullish, because candle turns bullish, and it comes back down to break that exact same candle low, it'll pretty much, what I mean is it'll continue to go down even further, right? It'll come down to here and eventually come back down to here, wherever it wants to go. But since price prints his wick first, that's your low, and this would be your stop loss now. And this is your buy limit, the previous candle high right there, all right? And obviously next candle forms, and it's gonna form like, say, it does something like this now, all right? So now that we have, let me just erase all these lines. Now that we have this wick that formed on this candle, this new candle that formed, we have that wick to the bottom. So pretty much what I'll do is now, instead of moving my stop loss, instead of having my stop loss below here, I will now have my stop loss at this candle wick, because we know that every low wick is like the candle low. So if price were to break this wick right here, so this is bullish candle forms, if it were to come back and break this low wick, this will show you that price will continue to come down here to this bottom wick, and then so on and so on, right? But since we entered down here on this candle, right here on this candle, this is my stop loss now. So now when this turns bullish, I'll be like risk free, and your stop loss will be in profit, right? So now you have from here to here, I don't know how many pips that is, but let's just say that's like 20 pips, right? So now you're in 20 pips in profit, and you're risk free. So now you can move your stop loss to there to secure profits, right? Because people always ask me, how do you know when to move your stop loss? Where do you move your stop loss to, right? So this bullish candle formed, and next candle forms, say it forms like this, right? This wick now, yes, I know what to do. This wick now is now your stop loss. So instead of having it down there, you now have it here, all right? Because this is now your support, right? This is now your support now. So this is how I'll enter without a retest, and this is how I'll manage my trade, right? Now this is like a 50 pip stop loss, right? So let's say from here to here, we enter down here. So now this is a 50 pip. You'll be securing 50 pips no matter what happens, right? And you know that this is the candle low, so once the price breaks this, it'll continue to come down, right? So this is exactly how I'll enter my trades without a retest. And how I'll manage the trade. This is where I'll put my stop losses. All right. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna be doing this is just like the pretty basic stuff of it. But when in the next video, I'm gonna be showing you guys like how it looks on the charts. Right? Obviously, it's not gonna look this clean, but it'll look something like this. It'll look very similar. So in the next video, I'm gonna be showing you guys how it looks on the charts. This is like an introduction to this whole candle